everybody. Welcome back to episode 5 of the No Culture podcast. We have a large variety of topics this week, including sex toys, an outlandish video made by the Army for advertisement, as well as at the end, how we believe the sex ed programs should be changed in the U.S. Joining me are my co-hosts, Juliana and Josh. So we're just going to start out with how everybody's week's been going. Juliana, why don't you kick us off?
What can I say? I'm blanking in the moment, but really it's been a pretty interesting week. I mean, I just started film school. We'll let that out there. It is crazy. It is so fun. I feel like I just can't explain it in any way. Like, I didn't expect to love it. It's only my first week. I didn't expect to bitch so much about it. When you bitch about something, you know you love it. I in my opinion, I feel like the more I bitch about someone or something, the more I really want it to work. Oh my God, everything's so breaking apart right now. My TV broke. What else? Like, I was trying to set up my camera to be like my webcam for this episode and also just for anything else. That's not working. I have to call Canon. I have to call Vanguard because I've been trying to invest. I said this last week as well. I've been trying to invest for like the past month and a half. That didn't work out. A lot of my packages were lost, like in the mail, and like they went to a different state. And regardless, not in the topic of film school. Film school is really great, really easier than community college, which I'm pretty happy about because I was really expecting it to be full on like hell, just really difficult. I'm really happy. It's going well. The subjects I'm learning are really interesting. I went to the gym. That has not happened in so long with COVID just ruining everyone's like workout schedule. I went to the gym. Like it was better than any gym I'd ever been to. I went to one that was pretty far away, but regardless, I think I'm going to make the commute to go at least like once a week for now. But that was a nice thing to turn around my week. I went with my sister and we went out and we had fun and we went shopping and like I bought a yoga mat. I could go on forever. Anyway, Josh, how was your week?
Well, first off, I'd just like to say I'm really proud of you going to the gym. You know, it's the first step for everybody. Getting those gains, exactly. Well, I did the exact same thing as Juliana. Been working out. Yesterday, I worked out really hard, and I ended up actually throwing up in front of like everybody. So solid. But the good thing is that I knew I was gonna throw up, so I rushed to the bathroom, made it to the toilet, and just let it all out there. So that's a plus right there. It's definitely a plus.
Yep. Gotta look for the silver lining.
Exactly. I also locked the door to the stall, so like everything was taken care of.
Like, Josh, are you okay? Are you okay in there, Josh?
It was only 3 gags, so it was solid. It was efficient. Also, I've just been working out, protein shake, got Costco pizza, pepperoni, with some ranch.
Oh,
always
ranch?
A solid move.
Have you guys been seeing the commercials that Ranch has been putting out where like a delivery guy will come up with to deliver a box of pizza, and then some like really frazzled dude will just push his way up with a bottle of ranch and be like, wait, don't forget the ranch, and just
I've never seen that.
Okay,
So
all these
bizarre.
Commercials you talk about every week, Sam, do you have cable?
No, this is on YouTube. I'm getting these things. They're so bizarre.
I've never seen that.
There's another one where it's just like this couple is just ordered pizza and they open it up and there's just a full bottle of ranch just taped to the inside of the box. And they're like, honey, did you order this bottle of ranch? And she's like, no. And then it just cuts to them with like ranch dripping down their cheeks. And they're like, oh my God, this is so good.
Oh my God,
anyways,
so
rant about ranch commercials over.
I'm such a snob. I pay for like premium and shit. Also, you have a student. We're all students. You can get it for $6 a month. This is not sponsored. I am obsessed with YouTube. I spend at least like 60 hours a week watching YouTube. So I
Yeah,
have
but you
to
can
watch
just
it.
get ad blockers, right? Like
No, I have
So
to
I
download
watch-
all my videos. I have to watch them wherever I go. I download like at least 50 gigabytes worth of YouTube videos.
So I don't have 50 gigabytes worth of storage on my phone. I got the small one because when I was upgrading my phone, they were just as has now come to light, the updates killed my 5SE that I had for like 6 years. They were just like, sucks to suck, loser, pay us $400. And I was like, all right, whatever. So I ended up getting only a tiny bit of only the like 32 gigs of storage, which has really bit me in the ass.
You're a computer major, right? Don't you ever use your phone for class?
No, I'm a game design major and I just use my computer for class. But it's close enough.
That's what I meant to say, but
it's related to computers. It's close enough.
But that's just interesting. I don't know. I feel like anything involving like technology, I would imagine like you'd have to use your phone for random shit or like storing.
No, not really. Everything can be done on the computer.
Boom. Wait, we haven't talked about your week, Sam.
Sure.
Oh, surprisingly, on a similar vein of working out, I didn't this week, but I am finally fully vaccinated, so I plan on going back to rock climbing, which I've not rock climbed since the start of the pandemic, so it's been over a year, and so I'm sure I am rusty as hell. But I'm excited to get back into it. Besides that, I am now in my second week of the last quarter, freshman year of college. I'm taking coding, animation. I'm taking an ethics class centered around Star Trek, which is so fun.
What is the world? Like, there's that one Kim Kardashian class at Brown where they like study that like their lives, and you're taking one for Star Trek. Very cool.
Yeah, and
what's the most influential thing you've learned about that this week? Like, what's your favorite thing that you learned about from that class?
There's a shocking amount of so first of all, the professor who teaches it is an ethics professor who just happened to like Star Trek, and when they said he could do this class, he's like, yes, let's go. So we're learning about the ideals of enlightenment, which is interesting. But we're given an episode that we have to extract ethical questions and dilemmas from. Like the idea of, is it the responsibility of more advanced nations to help and guide less developed nations, which in Star Trek, the answer is usually no. They have what's called the Prime Directive, which says that if a civilization doesn't reach a certain point with their technological development, you're not even allowed to make contact with them.
You're not allowed to, or is not worth your time? Or?
You're not allowed to, because the fear is that you are going to alter their growth and potentially in a negative way, which is themed around when nations with more advanced technologies, such as the colonists or the Spaniards, came to America. And we've seen many times that when more advanced nations interact with less advanced nations, they often subjugate them. And so it is partially trying to avoid that.
That's really interesting. I feel like I got lost a little bit, but when you reference the United States, like it made me think of like France helping the United States and then the United States not helping France. I don't know. I'm a little lost. It seems way bigger than me, but that's really cool.
Yeah,
I'm really interested. I think that's really fun and really interesting. I mean, that's a good class to be in.
Yeah, it definitely is. I've been really enjoying it so far. We have a debate tomorrow, actually, which is the debate question is, should parents pay their children to read books? And I'm pretty sure to read books.
Oh.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure everyone is going to say no, they shouldn't. And for that precise reason, I'm going to say yes, they should. That parents should pay their children to read books.
You know what? I agree. I think they should. Because if you think about it nowadays, they just have their phone and like the internet, and they don't actually have to sit down and read word for word on pages. That feels amazing. Sometimes smell really good. They don't have like that grip of a book, you know, that nostalgic feeling.
Also, kids get bribed all the time for stuff. Like, yeah, like also when kids are young, very few kids like vegetables when they're young. It's like the classic thing of like, oh, my kid won't eat their vegetables. So you either bribe them or you threaten them. And then over time they start liking it. Plus kids are stupid. Like, depending on how old they are, you can be like, if you read this book, I'll give you $0.25. And they'll be like, oh, whole quarter? Wait. This is crazy.
Wait. I was just talking about this with my mom because we were talking about like my childhood and how I was like mean to her at the time because I had very like misguided views of her just because of like our relationship in the house. Regardless, I remember when I was in 5th grade and I was being bribed in my eyes, it was a negative connotation. I felt that I was being bribed to do some sort of smart bitch activities, like where you build robots and go into contests and go like the state nationals and then you like get second place or whatever. Like I did one of those and I was bribed to do it with like Build-A-Bears. Regardless, in that moment, I felt bribed. I felt that my relationship with my mom wasn't amounting to a lot because she said that if I did it, she would get me stuff rather than just like spend more time with me, which was really what I wanted in the time, or like a better understanding of communication, because like that was our issue at that point when I was younger. So it's a really interesting thing to even like that. Just it's deja vu for me. I think that'd be a really good thing to mention, like how to like have that conversation with a kid, like, hey, I'm going to pay you to read books without making them feel used, because that's something that's really, I would imagine it's hard to navigate with a child. Like that's a pretty, like I would imagine that to be a pretty complicated subject.
Yeah, it definitely I mean, it's, you got to be gentle with it, because I feel like I feel like most parents even nowadays operate with either the carrot or the stick. They either bribe their kid or they threaten their kid. So it's like, oh, if you don't, like, oh, well, you better eat your vegetables, because if you don't, you're not going to get dessert, which is a threat. But it's like, oh, if you eat your vegetables, I'll let you have a bit more ice cream. And so I feel like most parents already operate on this same kind of level, with most kids not even noticing. And I feel like what potentially gets bad is when it starts being so prevalent and for kind of more major things like you were talking about, Juliana, where it's like, oh, well, if you go to this camp, or do this activity, which is going to take up like a decent chunk of your time and a decent chunk of your life, then I'll reward you. I feel like that's when it potentially gets a little risky, because it's something so major.
I would say that like you said, like with your example of eating vegetables, like because they're good for you, they're doing it with your best interest at heart. Just like with reading, they're doing it with the best interest in your heart. That camp, I use it because it was for the best interest in my part. It was like my parents wanted me to see what STEM would be like for me to go into, like, oh, do you like building robots? Let's find out now. So I get it. But the way you're describing it, it's like, if you don't eat your vegetables, you don't get your dessert. Is that the point? Or is it just like we're doing it because we have, as parents, we have our best interests in our child's future to, you know?
I was more just describing like two of the kind of like large, vague categories that parents will often use to get their children to behave, which is I feel like most parents don't just say like, all right, I would like you to eat your vegetables. And they go, why? I'm like, because they're good for you. And the kid goes, ah, I see. Thank you. Thank you, mother. Thank you, father. I shall go and eat my vegetables. It's like, no, the kid's like, no, they're gross. I don't want to eat them. Who cares if they're good for me? And you're like, fine, I'll give you something bad for you if you go and do it. And they're like, all right.
I think view of like parenting is so skewed. I don't know.
I don't think so, because I feel like a lot of kids hate vegetables, right? And they only eat them when they get rewarded with something horrible, which is like cake, ice cream, or dessert, or they just don't eat them at all. So it's but as we grow up, we tend to like them, obviously.
Yeah, and so you don't have to worry about your kid being like reliant on getting a reward, because we've seen that as you grow up, you stop needing the reward and you're like, all right, well, I'll just eat vegetables because I'm either fine with eating vegetables now or I like eating vegetables.
And it's kind of ironic, because I was talking with my sister today. She went to Las Vegas to stay with like a friend and their family goes out and eats like fast food every day, 3 times a day, nonstop. And my sister was like, I can't take this. Like, I miss my fresh fruits, my vegetables, and all that. And it's obviously there's different sort of discipline when it was like raising each other, because that person loves fast food, eats it 3 times a day. With my sister, she just can't wait to get back home to eat those vegetables,
Got that Bay Area life.
Exactly. And I agree with her. Like, I love making my own food, whether it's healthy and just tasteful.
We do have a couple of requests from listeners. We have 2 requests, actually. One from Muzzy, who wanted me to teach some cardistry. I will put a short video at the very end, probably after we sign off and give the credits, just so that those who don't want to see it don't have to be interrupted. But Muzzy, just so you know, it's there. And the other was our listener, Jesse, asked for you, Juliana, to talk more about the podcast you had mentioned in the last episode.
Yeah, they do have a podcast, but the show that I was referring to, it's called, I'm probably saying it wrong. It's supposed to be more sensual, but regardless, it's about 2 drag queens just having fun. It started like a couple of years after their 7th season of being on RuPaul's Drag Race. In case neither of you 2 know or none of our viewers know, their names are Trixie Mattel and Katya Zamolodchikova. Fuck, it's too hard to say. Anyway, they are hilarious. I mean, I can only say I can go with quotes. Oh God, what was it? Like, fuck my pussy with a rake, mom. Oh, that looks like a rake, or that looks like a broom. Something like that, like shit like that. Oh, like they have specific intros. Jesse, if you're listening, like if you don't like memorize these because you rewatch them every day, I have every single episode of downloaded on here. There's 150 episodes, guys. I like listen to them when I'm doing anything, studying, listening to school. Like when I should be listening to my lectures, I'm listening to them instead. Homework, painting. This is a little off topic. I had a bedside table that I stole from like some like house yard sale. They're like, it's free. Anyway, painted it and then was like, I hate white. I'm gonna paint it green. I painted it the most disgusting vomit snot green I could have ever bought in the world. I hate it. And I also got like the high gloss. I peeled off the paint the next day. Like I could, like that's how high gloss it was. Like you could have just peeled it off. It's like gloss nail polish, gel nail polish. Disgusting. Regardless, what? And I'm the one surefire way to disengage your mandibular joint, Dr. Bitchcraft. And like let's party. Katya, like shit like that. It doesn't make any sense to you. I understand that, but it's like their intros. It's just so fun. And oh God, there's this one always, I'll never forget it for some reason. It's not even that funny, but it's like, and I'm just too under the weather to have a baby right now. Katya, like just their intros, whatever they talk about. I love the show. The demographic is for people that watch Drag Race. It's presented by the company that shoots Drag Race. It's all connected by this big conglomerate. Wow Presents. I could go on forever, but regardless, it talks about whatever you want it to talk about, like homosexuality, money, success, like living in Los Angeles, like what it's like to just be like a hick from the middle of fucking Wisconsin, because that's one of Trixie Mattel. She's Native American. And she like grew up in buttfuck Wisconsin and lived in a trailer park with a tin roof over her head and just like had to live with her grandparents because like toxic family issues. Like it's just they're both 2 very relatable people. Katya, she was a meth addict. maybe not. I don't remember which
relatable content right there.
Relatable, a recovered meth, very relatable to recover from whatever drug it was. It was like heroin, or it wasn't. I can't remember which one it was. Anyway, you don't have to be gay to watch this show, and they say it like you do. You don't, and I mean, all I can say is it's a great show to watch when you just need to listen to nonsense, because sometimes the world doesn't make sense. And you just need to be distracted by something that for some reason does make sense. So that is my spiel to I could talk about it forever. Love the show. And there you go. Moving on. The camera bag has had nothing in it for the past 5 years of it living in my bookshelf. Now it has a purpose.
Ooh.
It has a purpose for our next topic, sex toys. I was very weary of bringing this up, not only because the sex toys for guys, I feel like are hard to come by, and like, I know you're not versed in them. It's not like, I mean, unless you are, I'd love to hear about it, but the anime man, he made a wonderful video about male sex toys, and I just never thought about it. But anyway, at the same time, I was like, well, I need my own. I'm not seeing anyone. Shed boy, gone. I think last time was like Valentine's Day. What a wonderful day to just stop everything.
Yeah, we forgot to do a conclusion to the Shed Boy story.
Oh, well, here it is.
Done.
It's over. It was the last time was I shouldn't get too, this is a little graphic. The point is it wasn't great. It wasn't great. Sex toys. Call her daddy. I've mentioned her briefly on the show before. I can only say that like having an adult female figure just on social media who's not afraid to talk about the concept, the idea, the product that is this sex toy, it's very refreshing. As a like young teenager, I remember like stumbling onto like, oh god, I shouldn't black out. I shouldn't call it my sister. I stumbled onto my sister's sex toys, and I remember thinking like, what the fuck is this? This is so crazy. Like, this is the shit you see in porn. And I wasn't allowed to watch porn, but I was watching it anyway. And it just was something that I was like, this is so cool. And I remember using my first sex toy. I think I was 14 or 15. All I can say is it was not what I was expecting. It was boring. It was not fun. I just wasn't really interested in the idea. I was like, oh, well, like in your 14-year-old brain, when you're like horny and stupid, you're like, oh, getting fucked by a guy is gonna be so amazing. Like, this is gonna be so much better than this stupid fucking rabbit. Sex toy rabbits. They're like a little knobbin that's supposed to like stimulate your clit while still having like a penis in that enters you and supposed to vibrate. I personally don't like them. They're just not my thing. Like, insertion isn't my thing. Clitoral shit is my thing. If you want someone who doesn't know all the vernacular but will just spew curse words at you, you're in the right place. I don't know specifically what started me wanting this. A lot of social media people that I follow were supporting like this one company, Bellesa, for sex toys, and I was like, oh, this seems like an interesting thing to dive into. I didn't buy anything from them. The ones that I got, well, one that I got, I was like, this is
show
gonna
and
be
tell
a game.
time.
No, it's not. You don't get to see.
Wait, we don't? I'm actually really curious.
What?
Well,
how can this not be show and tell time?
It's like a Lilo
Lilo and Stitch.
Lilo and Stitch.
Lilo and Stitch.
Fuck you. Lelo. Clitoral like stimulator. It's like
I'm so curious now.
It's pink. I think they come in different colors.
Of course it's pink.
Ooh.
And then, hi, this is a sex teaching moment. This is a teaching moment for all of us. Please clean them. Always clean them. This one's waterproof. That's mainly the reason why I got it. Regardless, the way that it works is that there's this very dark, ominous hole to people that have like a fear of like multiple holes in the same place, like a honeycomb, like people that have fears of those, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I don't think you'll like this, but too bad. Just turn the lights off. Don't look at it.
My honest first thought when I saw that was it looked like
an
ocarina. No, I thought it looked like an ocarina from fucking Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time.
Oh, I get it, because like the holes are so black.
The little, yeah, it's kind of a roundish thing with a little part coming off. It looks similar.
This other one that I got, this one, my friend and I went to a sex store because we were like, you know what, let's just go, we're fun. I ended up getting this one. It was pretty cheap. It's called the Power Bullet, and it's pretty much like a tiny version of a wand. And wands are not really like, this is what they look like, but times like what's 10. They're usually much larger than this. In fact, like they're larger than my water bottle sometimes. Like they're huge, and it's just not convenient. It's not spatial. Like it's insane how big those things can be. I just wanted something small, something easy to travel with, because I heard bullets were really good to have. Okay.
Everyone knows that it's really safe to travel with bullets. Go. Recommendation number one: if you need to travel on a plane, bring a bullet.
You know, actually, so many things are inspired by guns. Like shooting like having a film shoot, like that's inspired by like the first camera that looked like a gun. It looked like a rifle. I never knew that. That's something you learn in film school. Bullets. They are literally shaped like bullets, and they are like vibrating like cylinders that you just put on your clip. But they're inspired by guns. Regardless. Do I like them? That has been a hard question for me to answer. I am very independent when it comes to like my personal sex life, and I feel like the only person that knows me better than myself is me. Well, the only person that knows myself is me, and no one knows me as well as I do. So I'm the one that's going to be able to like pleasure myself the best. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
The only person that knows me better than me is me.
That was so bad.
I don't know myself nearly as well as I know myself.
Oh my god.
Moving on.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Juliana, I saw the same video that you did about the anime man and Giga trying out like sex toys in Japan. And Sam, I might say like you should definitely watch it as well.
Send me the link to this.
It was really eye-opening because there was more than like 100, probably 1,000. It was like thousands of different products, and I was like, wow, there's literally that many.
That's honestly surprising because I feel that's the only one you ever learn about is the fleshlight.
Exactly, but there's like different like types
besides like butt stuff, which
it's true.
I'm a shy away from.
Butt stuff. What does that have to do with sex toys?
Because it's a sex toy, butt stuff, you know.
Things that go in your butt. Is it a product?
Yeah, no, there's.
Oh, you mean like anal
specific product.
Oh, I have one of those, but I'm not going to show that one. But I know what you're talking about. Okay, I get it. Moving on.
You were so happy with that.
You're like, wait. Speaking of, me and Josh are just gonna start listing them, and you're just gonna start pulling them out. Be like, yup, got that one. That one got shipped in last week.
Gotta catch them all, right? Gotta catch them all.
So expensive. They're so expensive. The reusable ones that guys get are like $8 a pop. But like a really nice like the ones that Josh is referring to and the ones that I'm referring to, they're like they've got lube inside of them, and they're like silicone, and you just like move it up and down. And they have some that like last forever, and they're like $200. That's so much money. Mine was $110 for like, it's a life investment. It has a warranty and whatever. It's insane how expensive sex toys are, and I understand it, but I hate it. Oh, Josh, you were talking about sex toys.
I also just looked it up, and apparently for like an official on-brand fleshlight, it's like $80, not including taxes and shipping.
It's expensive, but they're small. Prices. Like shipping, maybe. Wait. Oh God. Oh, right, Josh, I like them? Josh, sorry.
What was I talking about?
You were talking about would you buy one? That's my question. Would you buy one?
Oh, I think I would buy one if I had my own place. Just to experiment, you know?
Yeah. But I don't think they're loud.
No, just to experiment.
It's not necessarily about them being loud. It's just the availability of others to find them, because I feel like with sex toys for men are seen as being much worse than women having sex toys. Because like if a girl has a vibrator or a dildo, you're like, yeah, whatever. But I feel like if you find out that a guy has a fleshlight, it's normally seen in a very negative light, which I think is ridiculous. I think anybody should be able to pleasure themselves however they want within legal limitations. Let me stress that part. I am not condoning any of you fucking freaks out there who are doing some whack shit. Not you. This is not for no. Stop
Fucking a
it.
vase. Fucking a
Don't do
vase. I
that.
feel like that would be something some freak would do.
Even a vase, no. Like if you want to,
That's
if you
fine.
get off from fucking a vase, that's fine. I'm talking about like don't do children, don't do animals. Stay away from those two. And I'm sure there's some others, but off the top of my head, don't do those. If you want to fuck your furniture, whatever.
Wash it
Not my
after.
couch. Yeah. Like if you're gonna like fuck your couch, at least you make sure that you like properly clean it before like you have guests over who have to sit on your couch.
But I'd give both of these like a 5. Like I think that me myself can do a better job than these can. So I don't want to like make the like I don't think the purchase of a sex toy is like essential. At the same time, like it can be pretty fun to have it like in the bedroom. I'm sure I've not done that yet, but I'm excited to try with the bullet or the tiny wand. With this, it's quite hard from what I've heard. I'm just excited to figure out how compatible these are later in life. But yeah, that's my rating for them. If you like a sex toy, go ahead, try it. I think that it's really for any gender, for whoever you are. Just try one because not ever trying one, it just don't limit yourself. That's all I'm gonna say. I tried it. I'm going to continue using it, but I'm still the best at what I do.
Hey,
Moving
that's
on.
something. That's something right there.
Solid sentiment to end this off with. You're always the best at what you do. All right.
Okay, next topic.
That's an accomplishment right there.
So the next topic that I wanted to discuss is a commercial that I've been getting quite frequently put out by the Army. And what they're doing is they're making the different positions in the military seem like classes in a video game. And I showed it to Juliana and Josh. Like the chef is called the replenisher, like a doctor is called which by the way, the replenisher is like probably the lamest name out of all of them. Like a construction worker is the groundbreaker, and it shows very like sci-fi futuristic things with one person as like the central like hero of it. Which I just feel is so scummy. Because war is not a game. You can't like, it's not something that like, oh, you go to war and you get shot, it's fine, you respawn. It's not something that is casual. It's not something that you can mess around with. It is a serious commitment that can potentially cost you your life. And so this ad, which I feel is directly targeted at young adults and children, is a horrible thing for them to go for. Because like no,
sorry,
like I doubt any like 35-year-old guys who are thinking of enlisting in the Army are going to see this and be like, yeah, I'll do that. But like some 17-year-old kid who spends their entire time playing video games and doesn't know anything about the military could see that, and that could be the deciding factor that ends up with them enlisting.
I agree. When I watched the video, I didn't even get to that part yet in my mind because I just looked at it and I was like, this is what our money is going towards. Like our tax dollars paid for this video. It's Army, federally funded. It just was kind of insulting. Like I was too overwhelmed by the emotion of like, this is what we're highlighting war. I only say that now after the fact of Sam saying it. But it was insulting to see that was what we're highlighting for kids when there's so many other things that you can do. A lot of the benefits of Army, they make sense. Like you get sometimes your college paid for you, sometimes you get health benefits, or you just get like veterans benefits just in schools or wherever you go. I mean, we talk about it. We talk about veterans benefits at my school so frequently at this point. I'm just like, okay, we get it. We get it. Thank you so much for serving our country. I get sick of it, but like we have so much respect for the veterans that work for our country. and serve for our country. At least I do. And at least we do. We do. It just felt really strange because no one should be in war. We just bombed Syria. I didn't know that at all. Like, my aunt called my mom about it. She's like, the Americans are bombing Syria again. And I was like, why are we still doing this? So that was my first reaction when watching it.
Want.
I'm sorry?
Me?
I said they have stuff we want.
Oh.
Which is like the world's most oversimplified answer to anything, but yeah.
Let's colonize. Let's just take it because we want it. I mean,
hell, that's how we've been doing shit up to this point. Why not continue? It's been working so far.
I mean, our gas is going up. That's the one thing I'm like, oh yeah, we bombed Syria, so our gas is going up. Yeah. I don't know.
Gas prices almost at like $4.50 now in some parts of the city.
Every time I see it, I'm just like, what is going on? Like, there's always something like political going on when that happens, or it's summer, and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on here?
Josh, what were your thoughts on that ad?
I think the ad was super cool personally, and I thought
I won't deny that it was a very cool looking ad.
I'm sure Sam will leave like a link in the description or something like that because the ad was super interesting to watch, and it gave you a different perspective, I think, on like what the Army is and what the military is. And I know how Sam was like talking about the military like process and how some people like might think war is not like, what it seems to be due to like the advertisement. But I think the military makes it pretty clear, obviously like not through the ad, but as soon as like you join and have to go through like certain practices and certain training and all that, that eventually, if you can't like get it through your thick skull, like what you're actually going to be accomplishing like back there, I guess it kind of just tells you maybe you are meant to be like going to this place.
So Josh, the problem is after you enlist, you can't exactly just be like, hey, psych, never mind, I'm out. Like if they're paying for your college and then you just say like, actually, I didn't realize what the Army really was, I'm going to leave. Like that shit doesn't fly.
I know what you're talking about, but I feel like the process is like you tell a recruiter, yeah, I want to join. And the recruiter like tells you, okay, and sends you to like a processing station. And at the processing station, you have to take multitude of tests. Where only like I think 2.7 out of like 10 people actually pass. And then after that, you have to sign a contract. And then after that contract, you have a certain date where you have to ship out to boot camp. And then you have to decide within that time period if you're actually gonna commit. You still have like a couple months to decide before you like actually commit to it. But after once you're at boot camp,
a contract,
after that, ironically, you can still back out of the contract because the contract only guarantees the job for you, not necessarily you have to go. Because you can still get fines or go to jail during that time period, right? And the Army doesn't want to take over that and like take coverage over that. So, but after boot camp, though, the contract like isn't still, and you'll be discharged and like get like felonies if you do quit. So you do still have like a time period. If the ad doesn't get to you though, like, and really corrupts your mind, then like you should be going to this place because like you can't really think critically at all. Like, if it really gets to that period, like, it's really sad.
I agree. I agree. It is really sad. I also agree that like I just think about how a lot of people that join the military, they do it out of necessity rather than wanting to. And I don't know. That was like the first thing that came to my mind. I wouldn't say that they have like thick skulls or what was it? Regardless.
Thick skulls, yeah.
Thick skulls. I just think that a lot of people do it out of necessity, and if they see that video, they're like, oh, maybe it's better than what I was expecting. And I mean, you're right. Like if they don't realize that the military is harder than they ever understood it to be, like probably shouldn't get into it. But I mean, it's just so misleading. Especially, I just worry for kids. I worry for kids because no one, like, when you see like a video of a man going to the moon and then a bunch of bitches are like, I want to be an astronaut. Like, I just wonder how that impression leaves on kids. Of course, kids of this generation are like so much smarter than any other kid of any other generation to a point where it's like, shut up, you smart Alec motherfucker. But I don't know. That's just how I felt when I saw it.
It also.
Oh, you first.
Oh, thank you. It's also just interesting because it's odd to think of the Army as a corporation because their advertising uses many of the same tactics that every other company uses. Like there's another ad that more or less says like, oh, this is you're trapped in this kind of fake version of reality where everything's online and not in person. Well, if you come to the Navy, you'll have a true family and you'll have purpose, which isn't necessarily incorrect, but it's using that same thing of it relates to you and says your situation is worse than you realize. We have the solution. Come here and we can. It feels weird that like to think that the Army uses the same tactics as like Coca-Cola and Charmin.
That's so like, I don't know why. That sounds evil. It just seems like very evil. Be like, you're in a bad place. Come over here. We're the light side. Especially from like a capitalist point of view, because like that's what we run on. I mean, I don't want to make too big of a deal of it, but like, I don't know. That's just so weird. And like, I want to meet their marketing team. Like, their marketing team is genius. Like, this is all like brilliant shit. And it's going to get people to join the military. Wow. It's very smart. It's so smart. Like, I just have to commend them and hate it. I don't know.
But Josh, you were saying something.
You have to understand that where they're coming from is that they're fighting against like everyone's ideas of going to college, you know, because like we're all ingrained like right after high school, go to college, right? No one else really thinks of a different path. And I think that's why they do go hard with the marketing campaigns, which makes sense. And hopefully it does make some impact because college shouldn't be like the only alternative, right? You know, the trade schools that are out there. And I was looking into like lots of military jobs. And of course, there's always a chance to go into war. But the jobs that you can work there in the military that later transfer to like civilian life, they're amazing. They pay like $200, $300, like $1,000 salaries. And sometimes you get like special clearances. So
that's if you're really
lucky. That is valid. There are back when I was taking community college classes, an Army recruiter reached out to me to ask me to do a software programming position, and they said that they would like pay for my college to train me for it, and that I would then be doing their training for like, or I would be doing their software programming for like 2 years, and then they would send me on my way. Yep. Which I'm going to be honest is like, if I didn't have like a very strong desire and goal to go into game design, as well as very luckily the means to do so, that's an absurdly good offer. So they do definitely have some very real benefits that they can offer people.
I'm interested. I feel like in where we live, like in the Bay, like it's not something I hear a lot about to go into the military, but many of my siblings went into the military. My sister went into the military. She got kicked out because she was pregnant and she didn't want to get an x-ray, and like shitty experience. I'm a little subject to the military. They treat my dad like shit because he was in the Vietnam War, and like they forget that he even existed. I have my own opinions on it, and that's just my personal opinion. We had a friend that was in our school program who is currently in the military, if not two people that are going to be in the military, because Shed Boy's going.
Really?
Shed Boy is joining the military? Really?
That was his plan. I mean, he was talking about it in February. He's like, oh yeah, I'm going to try it in the fall, because he's
what branch?
Army? I know a lot of people, like in, for example, Vallejo. Like, there was this one guy that I was like, oh, maybe I'll talk to him. He went to the military. Couldn't talk to him. He left. He'll come back, but like he's gone. So that's interesting. It's just an interesting point of perspective.
You know what I'd be really interested in, like the government doing, is that like right after high school, there'd be like a 2-year like mandatory service, but not for the military, but like for like conservation and like national disaster efforts. And so like people like right after high school, they go into like the United States community and society to go like pick up trash or like do trail work or help people that like with homelessness and stuff, like tons of stuff like that. It's like mandatory service like that. So people like actually are, you know, doing helpful things to society and then pursue like college and things like that.
So would they be paid for this?
They'd be paid for this, yeah.
Interesting. Good luck getting people to.
Of course, yeah.
Not for that.
There's always that. Yeah.
That would cost the nation a lot more money than a very large number of people are willing to do.
Of course.
Sorry. I think it's a really good concept, just in the sense that I think I've heard it before. Like, I know Mormons do that with, like, oh, now that you're 18, go to this one country and try to spread our religion. I understand, like, that's conservation, helping homeless, cleaning up places. A couple of those things are punishments for people that fuck up in corporate law. It's like, what is it called? Community service. I understand that. I think that it would be super helpful. That was one of the wonderful things in our program team. That's one of the wonderful things that they did. Like, they made us work with, like, internships that were nonprofits and, like, help us get an understanding of, like, what it is to be charitable. And I think that that's something that they should do, like, in high school, personally. But I think that that's a really, like, beautiful thing. So yeah, I agree with you. We were just getting into the topic of Anime Lovers Anonymous. Let's go and commence. We were just talking about Tokyo Revengers. We were having a bit of confusion with one of the flags that's in that show. I was just looking it up. We were all just looking it up. It looks a lot like a swastika, but Sam was going to enlighten us on what's going on.
Yes, so we'll also have the image up on screen. So the swastika was based off of, I believe, a Buddhist symbol. I don't remember what it stands for, but it's the Buddhist, so I'm sure it's something very pleasant. And they look nearly identical. The main difference is that the swastika is slanted, going at a diagonal, whereas the Buddhist symbol is all going in the 4 directions. And I actually learned the difference when I was young, because I was going on a road trip with my family, and I looked out the car behind us, and it had the Buddhist symbol on it as a hood ornament. And I freaked out because I mistook it for a swastika. And I, for some reason in my, like, little kid brain, assumed that they somehow knew we were Jewish and were coming for us, which of course they didn't. And I'm sure they were lovely people. Yeah, so anyways, Tokyo Revengers is a new anime. Only the first episode is out. More or less, this dude has a really shitty life, and he learns that the only girlfriend he's ever had just died, actually was killed. And he's on a subway platform, and a group of people accidentally bump him onto the rails, and he dies. But then, in classic anime style, he goes back in time, like 12 years, to back when he was in middle school, and he's like, you know what? Now I'm gonna beat up all the people who bullied me, because why the fuck not? And that is why it's called Revengers, because they're here getting revenge for shit. Anyways, the other show that just started that I've been watching is To Your Eternity. And the story behind that is more or less some person, were to assume a deity, sent this orb down to Earth that goes and it interacts, and anything that stimulates it, it turns into. And so at first it becomes a rock, and then a wolf dies on top of it, and it becomes a wolf. And it then goes and begins interacting with this child who is in, like, a small ice fishing town, and he is all alone. He's the only one left. And at least the first episodes are his interaction with this young boy who has more or less gone a little bit crazy from the fact that he has been entirely alone for a very long time. I don't want to spoil what happens at the end of the first episode, but it is so far shaping up to be quite good.
Yeah. Something that I've been watching recently, something I have to recommend for any of the people that love slice of life. It kind of has 2 of my favorite genres, which is bad bitches and simple shit, which is The Way of the House Husband. He is a previous Yakuza member, and he was apparently, like, the coolest cat. I don't know how to describe it any other way. Feeling pretty old right now. but like he is adorable. He makes his wife a lot of breakfasts. A lot of his gang members are like, "Why'd you leave us, buddy?" And he's like, "The way of the house husband is just superior." And it's just adorable. It's so fun. They're like quick little 20-minute episodes that have like 6 or 7 different skits throughout the episode, and there's 5 episodes. It's very easy watch. Highly recommend it. Regardless, despite I keep saying regardless. In other news, I have also been rewatching a lot of my old favorite stuff. For school, we had to write like some random stupid essay about our favorite things that we were watching as children, and we had to handwrite it. It was super dumb. I think they were trying to prove that we weren't robots. Regardless, I had to try to figure out like what were my favorite animes that I grew up watching, because that's what has influenced my desire to make film, just with people rather than drawing. Can't draw. And some of the things that I started rewatching because I was writing about them was Fruits Basket 2001. If you've never seen it, it's a great comedy. It's very different from the original manga, but it doesn't lose its entertainment because it's not bad just because it's from 2001 and the animation is a little like whack. Regardless, next, Whisper of the Heart. Whisper of the Heart is a beautiful story about a girl who's trying to figure out what she wants to do with her future. She's now getting out of high school and she's not pursuing her passions in the way that she wants to. She just feels like she's on the sidelines of everything, and she's watching her love interest in the story. He is becoming a violin maker. He's making violins and he wants to be that for his future. He wants to be a musician and he wants to make violins. And her watching him pursue his dreams and wanting to go to Italy to make violins makes her want to pursue her dream of becoming a writer. Throughout the story, you learn that she's like obsessed with books and that's all she does. And she just kind of sticks to herself, and she also has some sort of self-hatred because rather than making books, she's reading them and she wishes that she could put herself out there, but he inspires her to make her first story. And throughout that journey she realizes that like the first thing you're gonna make is not gonna always be a hit, but that's what happens in the journey of becoming a diamond in the rough. A big recommendation. Love that movie. Another one that I'll recommend for like that I have been rewatching. I listen to the intro like probably every single month of the year for like the past 10 years since I've watched it. Sergeant Keroro. It just means Sergeant Frog. It is a very simple show. A lot of these are pretty simple. They're all pretty like regular comedy shows. He's a perverted frog from space and he's trying to take over the world, and he has like a legion of like 4 different frogs, and they all live with their own little like
Legion of
picopons.
4?
It's not.
They
think
army.
that they're much bigger than what they really are. They really think they're gonna take over the planet. They aren't. It's so funny, and like they're little picopon like host peoples. That's what they call people, like humans. Picopons. I just think it's so funny. It's such a good show. It's like slightly perverted, slightly slice of life, slightly just like meta. Especially the dub. The dub is super meta. Something about like 2000s dubs, like they're so like sarcastic and satire. Highly recommend. Go watch those. Josh.
No anime, but I've officially crossed chapter 4008 for Marshall Peak. So,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, 4,008 chapters in.
Do the chapters in the light novel correspond to chapters in the manga?
They're closely, not exactly, they're closely.
So that means you're about 3,000 chapters ahead of where
exactly.
I am. Jesus Christ.
And much more detailed, obviously.
How does that manga not have a show with how long it's been going on? It's ridiculous.
How long?
Good question.
You just said 4,000 chapters.
Yeah, the light novel's probably been out for a good like decade, maybe. And the manga, maybe like a year or 2, maybe 3, maybe 4.
That's crazy. I
ridiculous.
tried reading Marshall Peak. I couldn't get into it. Like the app that I use, you can read light novels. I seriously think Josh is the only one out of 3 of us that reads. I don't read. Do you read, Sam?
I do.
Okay, well, I try and fail every single fucking moment. I'm just impressed. I'm so impressed.
I think it's all thanks to like Percy Jackson, literally. Because when I used to read Percy Jackson, the world in my head that I could imagine was so picture perfect, and
Yeah.
I was just there in it, and I just loved it so much. And I do the exact same thing with Marshall Peak, and I can just imagine it perfectly, and I love it. Like currently, the only like light novel I have been reading is Marshall Peak because 4,000, that's a name for itself.
It's a lot. Yeah.
And considering that like I translate it myself, like I get like the raw, the Chinese copy, right, and I put it into a translator, and then I later just read that translation.
How do you not want to die?
I mean, at first I definitely did want to die, but if you get to the point where you're like, I can't progress at all unless I do this myself and like make some changes when it comes to, like my brain and the way it thinks. So like, because when translating like certain like scriptures and books and like quotes, tons of things will be taken and made completely like different because like that's
No,
how languages work.
you need to like tell us where do you even find these like transcripts? Where do you find these Chinese transcripts?
Well, for me, I went on Reddit and went to the Marshall Peak like Reddit page, subreddit, and I was asking people like if they had any raws or is there any like translator like that was at my point. 4,000's a lot, 3,000's a lot, 2,000's a lot, and no one reached past like 1,700, and that was like where I reached for good translation. And so I took it upon myself to like, okay, if I want to continue this on, I have to find my own way. And everyone was like, I did this way, I did that way, I had this website, I had that website. And this one guy was like, I switched from raw and just read it from the translation. And I did that. And it's working for me. I'm at 4,000. I started doing it like at 2,000.
It's also interesting with the same. I feel like something similar is kind of like with just like poorly done translations. If you like at first, poorly done translations like took me out of a story more than anything else.
Exactly.
But there were certain ones that I loved so well in the story so much that I was willing to put up with it. And then I found myself going and I would read like entire chapters where almost nothing was translated properly, but yet I was still able to understand exactly what they were talking about. Like none of the sentence structure was correct. They would have like double words or missing words or like letters would be wrong, but your brain just starts like editing that out and just auto correcting the hell out of everything. So you see a sentence that's like, the boy spelled B-Y, like went to park, and you see that as the boy went to the park, because your brain just fills in the gaps and edits it as much as it needs.
Are you referring to both manga and light novels?
I think so.
Yeah, manga.
So the translations can be both horrible on mangas, horrible.
But like light novels, you have no pictures to help you understand what could be going on, and if like they're really bad, like you can't understand what's going on, right?
No, you can eventually. If you get into like this little cycle, everything just works out. Your brain just cancels out all the bullshit, and everything just kind of works out. But it just takes a lot of hard work and effort for sure. You can't get in that cycle; it just does not work.
This has happened a couple times now, but the artist for Solo Leveling had to take a week-long break due to health complications. I think this is now like the third or fourth time this has happened. And they're back this week. They had to skip last week. But I'm hoping that this won't become a trend and that they continue to do the incredible work that they're doing.
Oh my god, I hate health complications in artists. Fruits Basket's like Natsuya Takuya. She like literally had to get surgery on her arm. She was left-handed and she had to switch to being right-handed, and her art style just completely changed. Not for the worse, but it is just a very devastating thing. Like you feel the emotion as they're sick, and like if they write about it, does the author of Solo Leveling write about his injury or his health issues?
I have never seen or heard anything directly from the artist, but there is an account on the Solo Leveling like official subreddit that apparently is connected in some way with the author or the artist. So
I don't know why. I would just imagine that. I mean, I don't know if Solo Leveling's Chinese, like
Korean, I believe.
It's Korean. I would just imagine everyone to use. I mean, I think 4chan might be Japanese. I just imagine. I just
Not
imagine
4chan,
like 2chan
no.
and 4chan, like not translatable, like not understandable. Like Reddit seems really
Isn't there,
accessible.
like 8chan? Isn't there 8chan now?
I don't know.
I'm
pretty sure.
Lots of chans.
Yeah.
So I'm just interested. I'm really. So can you read everything that's going on Reddit? Is it all in English?
Oh no, on Reddit you just yeah, you can read everything on Reddit, but like no one's posting actual chapters on Reddit. Like,
So wait, I'm a bit confused on how you found them again. Like just
links to a raw, and then you put that raw into like Google Translate, and then you read it off Google Translate.
Okay.
Yep.
I see now. Wow.
Shall we transition to our final topic for the day?
Let's do it.
Our wonderful final topic. Okay, Sam, you go. Yeah.
Josh, this was your topic that you posed. Do you want to get us started off? How do you believe we need to change the sex ed programs?
So, I woke up today, right? As many of us did.
As one does.
Exactly. And for some reason, I was just thinking about our world has changed so much in the past couple of years that I myself, the one that's living in it and breathing in it and, is critically thinking at times in it, don't really know how I'm getting by when it comes to like a lot of things. When it comes to being a good human, when it comes to being a good worker, a good civilian, right? And also a good, sexual partner. Because oftentimes in life, we don't really talk about that because that's considered private. And I started thinking like, is that society or is that just because of me and who I am as a human being? And I was starting to think about that. And I was thinking back in school, we weren't taught anything at all. And then nowadays there's more like, sexuality, right? Bisexuality, pansexuality, lesbian, gay, straight, obviously. And I'm just really curious if in sex ed they've transitioned that at all. Because I remember when we were younger, they probably didn't include that at all. If they did, not much, right? And if we had the option to like sort of like create and shape the sex ed system in our vision, what we would do. And I personally didn't come up with an answer. I couldn't come up with an answer. And so I just kind of wanted to point that question to like my colleagues right here, because that was a super interesting topic. In the way it got my brain just like fidgeting, I think.
Don't flip them off.
You're like, I don't want to do the hard work. You guys figure it out.
Josh, what
flippable.
Did you not have any sex ed in school?
Oh, I mean, I did. I definitely did. I'm kind of thinking in my
really
head.
Good school, like good budget. Like that was something that I really thought about. Like we went to really good schools that taught us enough about sex ed health wise. Like don't get STIs, go get tested. Like they taught us that, right?
So the thing that I feel needs to be, I have two things I feel need to be changed. The first is that I feel that at least where we're from, in the Bay Area specifically of California, I don't know about the rest of California, they teach us really well about the health side of sex. What I feel like needs to be taught more is the emotional side. Because even as it's becoming slightly more acceptable, sex is still a very taboo subject. It's still not considered overly appropriate to talk about in like everyday society. Like for instance, on YouTube, it's seen as improper. If we were monetized talking about sex, would get us demonetized. And for these different things, we need to understand that sex is a natural thing that everyone does. Masturbation is a natural thing that everyone does. And I feel like what's happening is there are a lot of people who are growing up just shut off about talking about sex, even if it's just with their partner. I'm worried that people will end up not wanting to talk about like, okay, well, this is what makes me feel good. They say what makes them feel good. You discuss, because it needs to be a conversation. And that's a much more emotional view on the topic than what we often get in school, which is the very scientific, like, this is a penis, this is a vagina, penis goes in vagina, use protection, done. It's a very like cold scientific version.
Mm-hmm. I would say I agree. I think that that's pretty important. I wouldn't even have thought of it. And at the same time, I totally understand. Like, in the sense that, like, I think about the concept of, like, the emotions that come with sex constantly, personally. As, like, a young teenager, like, I always thought about sex. And that's just always been my thing. And it's always been my thing. And that's why I had sex early. It's why I masturbated early. It's why I had, like, all these perverted thoughts early. I was always just really curious in it. And okay, fuck off. Fuck
Just
you.
the way you said that, because it's puberty. Like,
I know.
We're in the same boat. Don't you worry about it.
Okay, we're all in the same boat, but what I mean is just like it's always just been on my mind and it's something that I pursued. But having the access to have it in school would be obviously so much better. But it's just something that I'm curious because I remember being in elementary school. They taught us about like how does your period work or like how does your dick work if you guys remember that, and like you had to sign the waiver form from your parents, like your parents had to sign like you're allowed to learn this. That's something that also was like really hard to swallow then, still hard to swallow now. I still have friends that I like can remember like their parents definitely did not let them go to the classes that we went to, and they just had to go out, they just had to not be in class when we learned that shit. I think that's fucked up. And I agree, it's like ridiculous. The emotional stuff, gotta learn about it.
Do you guys think it would be inappropriate if the one that was like teaching the class dove into like their personal like, sexual experiences if they were comfortable with it?
It depends.
That's definitely a slippery slope because you don't need to be. You would need to find a balance because you can't be so graphic with, like, let's say the last time I had sex ed was 8th grade, I think. So I was like 12, 13. So with the 12/13-year-old, okay, so I was about to say it's not necessarily appropriate to be discussing sex in detail, but then again, that goes straight back to my earlier statement about how talking about sex is taboo.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't really make sense for sex to be taboo, but even now, I'm like, my instinctual reaction is that that like we shouldn't be talking about this.
I agree. The last time I talked about it, I was 14 because in our freshman class, we specifically had to talk about it. It's just a hard thing to swallow, but we in a group as ourselves, we're very accepting to the idea of like sex. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about whatever we want to talk about. It's not a big deal to us anymore. And that's a privilege because we're 18. We don't have to feel any shame with coming with it. And also just being in the Bay Area, like like a lot of my friends were like, I think I'm genderqueer, I think I'm pan, I think I'm asexual, and like they would have the conversation with their parents and they'd be like, it's a phase, like wait a couple years. And like you hear these conversations and they're telling that shit to me and I'm like, okay, well, I'm hearing every side of the fucking tree, I'm hearing everything, and like I feel very comfortable talking about that because people are comfortable talking about that shit with me. And for other people in other locations, I have no idea how it's like for you. I'm imagining it's not that easy for some people. It's like in family situations, I didn't learn sex ed from my parents personally. Like my mom tried to make my sister tell me and she was like, fuck you, mom. So like it just depends. And I really think that we should learn about it. I think that it's something that is going to take a lot of patience with families, but I also have a lot of faith in our like generation. Like if like one of the things that I think is so funny is like the birth rate is going down everywhere. Like everyone's talking about how the birth rate's declining, like in China, Japan, United States. Like they thought there was going to be a baby boom in this pandemic. There's a baby like slump. And it's like, well, we don't feel comfortable. A lot of people aren't feeling comfortable enough to even think of having children right now. So the concept of sex itself, it's like, it's important if the birth rate keeps declining, because it's something that we have to consider. Like, okay, the topic of abstinence, the topic of safe sex, testing, having children, like when it's right for you, like fertility, it's all it's all really important in a time where we're like, everything feels so turbulent. So I just want to say that, like, I really wish that I think it's going to get better, but I wish it would get better sooner.
First off, I like to say, Sam, I'm glad you caught yourself at the beginning, because, you know, you kind of like were saying something and then your mind was thinking another. It was like hypocritical, but you caught that like instantly. So I'm super proud of it.
I was contradicting myself.
And Juliana, I think you're completely right when it comes to like the birth rate and all that. I think one of the solutions I had in mind while I was thinking about it, as you guys were talking, kind of gave me like an answer. I think the answer would be having like a general ed class for like throughout the entire year with like the same teacher. And then when you got to like, you know, the sexual and other like body related subjects, you'd have another like teacher there or someone like super respectable. And they would talk about like their own sexual experiences in a respectable manner, I think. Because I think nothing else would be better than getting it from another human being. Of course, it might be detailed or somewhat, you know, inappropriate, but it shouldn't be inappropriate. You know, catching myself as well, because it, you know, we live in this life that we all should know like what we're getting into and how we're getting into. Another thing is getting into pornography. I think teachers should definitely cover that, because that's another reason why birth rates are dropping down significantly. People are realizing we don't need another partner. We can be alone, and it's completely fine, because you can just game, you can just wink off, and just go to work, and that could be your life.
Fuck
and that's
you.
literally it.
The cycle of life.
Somewhere
Game,
else.
wank, work.
Like hikikomori otakus needs fuck.
And no, I mean, it's completely true though. Like people are finding like I don't need another human being to be there to satisfy me, and that's why birth rates will be continually dropping down in the future.
One last thing that I want to
people been knew that fucking shit for years.
One last thing that I want to add to this is that we need to have it be you learn one curriculum across the entire United States. I'm sorry if this offends any listeners, but sex ed should not be a matter of religion or opinion. Yeah. Sex ed is sex ed. It's been shown that areas that teach abstinence only have higher teen pregnancy rates than those that teach proper sex ed. People need to learn how to have safe sex and how to act around sex.
I completely agree.
Agreed.
And on that note, that's our episode for the week, guys. All right. I'm your host, Joshua Santos.
And I'm Juliana McKenna.
I'm Sam Schnee. Please remember to like and subscribe and comment below if you have any topics you would like us to cover next week.
Please give us questions. Please give us questions, recommendations, whatever you have to say. We'd love it all. Where you can reach me at Juliana McKenna, anywhere you look.
Some Schnee on Instagram.
And Joshua Santos on Bumble.
Fuck off!
Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching till the end of the video. And as promised, I'm going to teach you the butterfly cut. For this cut, you're going to start with what is called mechanics grip, where you're going to be holding the deck of cards between your pointer, your pinky finger on either side, with your middle and ring finger on the top, and your thumb on the bottom. So the way you're going to start is you're going to take your thumb and cut into the deck, and then go and touch it to your pinky. Now, you're going to pick up the top part of the deck and swivel it around your pointer finger until it clears the deck. After it clears, you're going to pull your thumb, your pointer finger in to get the lip to go right underneath, and then bring your thumb back in. I wish you all good luck with learning this trick.